Hello, my name is John Umling, and this is my global regional analysis for the Eastern European region. With respect to the agenda was based on the syllabus, so I'll skip most of that, given especially the 15-minute time constraint that we have. We'll point out, though, the sites that I use: Global Edge, U.S. Census Bureau, the U.S. Commercial Service, Export.gov, and Santander Trade Portal. All were very critical with respect to gathering information on this. When looking at the four countries in the Eastern European region, they include Russia, Romania, Hungary, and the Czech Republic. Russia, by far the largest land-wise and population-wise, and the smallest would be population-wise would be Hungary with 9.79 million. However, land-wise, Czech Republic would be smaller. However, they have a little bit better, a little bit larger population than Hungary. Looking at the major trading partners in the region, for these four countries: China, Netherlands, Germany, Italy, Austria, and Slovakia, all of which they have regular trade partnerships with. The difference being Hungary and Romania, they're located right next to each other, so they have I guess, cross-border trade. Looking at a brief history, in 1991, Russia Federation was formed. In 96, they joined the G7, and in 2014, they obtained Crimea. In 1947, Romania, they regained Transylvania and the Danubian Principality. In 2004, they joined NATO, and in 2007, they joined the European Union. In 1994, Hungary implemented some free market policies that helped lead towards them joining NATO in '99, and then in 2004 they joined the European Union. In 1993, the Czech Republic split with Slovakia, and then in '99 they joined NATO, and also in 2004 joined the European Union. Just as a point of to mention, in 2016, Czech Republic decided to start using Czechia as a shortened form of Czech Republic, which I thought was pretty neat. Looking at the trade policies with respect to the four countries, Russia imports much more than they export to the U.S., 3.13 times as much. Romania, they import also more from the U.S. than they export, with 2.34 times when compared to what the U.S. imports from Romania. Hungary is second in line behind Russia, and they import 2.9 times as much from the U.S. than the U.S. imports from them. And then Czechia, the lowest of the four nations, with 1.66 times as much. And all of them have a reasonable history, I guess, from 2000 on of importing more from the U.S. than they export. Looking at their age demographics, Czechia has the largest amount of individuals above age 65 with 19.03%, and then Russia has the least of age 65 and older with only 14.18%. The Russian economic environment, they had out of the four nations, they had the lowest GDP rate of 1.647, and they also had the worst risk rating and business climate rating, both of which were B. Their cultural environment, they had the highest spread of religions, with a balance between Russian Orthodox and Muslim, and a slight smattering of Christianity. Their main language is Russian, 85.7%, and then followed by a Tatar and Chechnyan language. With respect to the norms for business contact and time management and whatnot, I'm just gonna fly through these and maybe point out the differences, because for the most part, my research is showing very similar with respect to dress codes, gifts, and greetings. However, I would point out that out of the four, I thought Romania probably the most culturally different, and that may be with respect to them being a Latin-based culture. So Romania had I think the highest GDP rate, I was somewhat surprised here. Their per capita income was 26,660. Their country rating was better than Russia, however, not as good as the other two nations, with an A4 country rating and a A3 business climate rating. Their major religion was Eastern Orthodox, a large percentage, 81.9%, and then they were followed by Protestant and Roman Catholic. Again, I thought Romania was the most different culturally, and the only thing I can think that would explain that would again be that Romania is more of a Latin-based language and culture. Hungary had a reasonable GDP rate with 4.13%. They had a higher per capita income and a better country rating, A3 for both risk and climate rating. And they had a high religion rating with respect to Catholic and a large unspecified. So I noticed that Hungary and Czech Republic had a large amount of their population not specifying a religion. And again, you can see that here with the Czech Republic being 54% unspecified and a reasonably large amount of Roman Catholic. Czech Republic had the highest per capita income, 38,000, and they also had a reasonable GDP growth rate. And I think out of the four countries, they had the best risk rating and business climate rating. Looking at the political and legal environment, I don't want to dive into too much of this because laws, you're going to find that in every country there's a law for something. I'm sure. The ones that I guess to point out would, with respect to Russia, would be the IT sector. They have regulations that if your phone is encrypted, the phone companies have to provide encryption keys when law enforcement asks, and then they have a number of laws that pertain to the IT sector. Looking at their environmental financial environment, the Russian ruble is the currency they use, and I've seen a drop from before 2016 when they were 0.03 down to and then they went down to 0.016, which I thought was a reasonable drop. The Romanian political environment, similar to Russia, with respect to laws, a little better on the law side. They use the Romanian RON, and like Russia, they had a drop from before 2016 to today, although a little bit better. They went from around 0.03 to 0.24. So, and Romania is a EU member, as is Hungary and Czech Republic, so that's probably important to point out. The Hungarian political legal environment, the last three countries are very similar, especially considering that they're EU members. EU kind of regulates their members a little bit tighter, and that may explain why the Russian laws are more dramatically, I guess I wouldn't say dramatically different, but definitely more stringent. The Hungarian financial environment, they use the Hungarian forint, and they, like Romania and Russia, had a reasonable drop from before 2016 to today. So in the case of Hungary, they went from 0.005 to 0.0035. And lastly, Czech Republic, out of the four countries, definitely the best with respect to how well their currency is doing. I think the least amount of drop percentage-wise, 0.05 to 0.044. And I think from a financial standpoint, they also very stable country with respect to doing business. And we'll see that later in the presentation. Looking at the infrastructure going across the board, I guess with respect to infrastructure, it's probably important to point out that Hungary, out of all the ones that I studied, probably had the best, and they were strategically located in between the European countries. So a very good infrastructure and a very good location. When looking at the internet access, Romania, again, the worst out of the 4 countries, and this might be explained with respect to them being the most rural. I was finding in some of the data that people that buy over the internet, 20%. And then, of course, the last 3 very similar with, however, with Chesney and internet doing most people have access within that country. American companies that are doing business in Russia, Romania, Hungary, and Czechia, very similar across this spectrum. So I kind of combined them. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Procter & Gamble. You can go into any one of these countries and find a McDonald's, KFC. Their IT corporations, Oracle, IBM, and find that typically automotive sector, Johnson Controls and Delphi, and service equipment, Schlumberger and Weatherford. So looking at direct investments, Russia had the most U.S. investments at 13.88 billion, followed by Hungary with 7.13 billion, and then Czech Republic with 5.4. And again, Romania rounded out the bottom at 1.19. Each one of these countries had, with respect to investment, some strong points and some weak points. Hungary had, I guess, the most that I would see that jumped out with respect to opportunity. So, well, Hungary and Czech, obviously, those 2 scored the highest on the spectrum as far as risk. And the least invested wise jumped out as Romania, and this was evident with respect to opportunity and looking at their infrastructure too. They had the least developed roads and transportation sector. So to summarize, looking at the 4 countries in the East European region, the relevant factors. Russia in general was a desirable for U.S. firms as it goes to international business alternative. However, it's better to research their current trade embargoes and restrictions because given the situation, the hostility going back and forth with Russia and the U.S., you want to definitely look at the laws that are in place. The justification for Russia being a reasonable, good alternative, they're no longer a socialist country. That's one big plus. And, and they're beginning to realize the opportunity with foreign trade. And their legal framework is improving, and definitely the corruption in Russia is becoming less. Looking at Romania, they had an A4 rating, so they were ranked a little bit better than Russia. They're desirable from a U.S. standpoint as a business alternative. However, you have to keep in mind with Romania, the infrastructure is not as developed as the other countries, and their cultural differences were the most different from Russia, Hungary, and Czech. So to justify this as a good rating, Romania is a member of NATO. They're also in the European Union. And they're also using euro more. I thought when looking in the research that they may be the one nation using the euro the most. So and they generally have a low-cost workforce. So when you're hiring, generally have a reasonable labor rate. So Hungary, they had the 3rd best risk rating. They're desirable from the standpoint of international business, mainly because of their location. In Hungary, they had a well-developed infrastructure. The roads generally updated very well. Hungary put a lot of good investment into the infrastructure, and their location is located just at a central point between Europe and East Europe. So to justify this, they're a member of NATO as well as the European Union, and again their infrastructure well developed in a central location as well as an inexpensive workforce. And the highest rated out of all 4 countries, the Czech Republic, They were most desirable for U.S. firms as an international business alternative when compared to the other countries. And this is due, I think, mainly because they have a stable workforce, a stable bank sector, and they have excellent economic growth. To justify this also, they're a member of NATO, and as well as the European Union, and their nation has one of the lowest unemployment rates in Europe. And again, they're a very stable workforce and banking sector. So that summarizes my report for the East European language. I went over 27, 20, 29, 30 seconds, so hope you enjoyed. Thanks.